It's been a year since I started using this Seiko Panda chronograph. So I got this because I just wanted a very easy to use chronograph, so I can use it day to day. For example, like measuring my coffee steep time, or timing my baby's tummy time, or the time since he last pooped. So it's definitely very easy to use, but you know, with all watches, there are good things and bad things about them. So to start off with the good things, it's definitely very convenient. It's solar powered, which is great. I've left this in the drawer for months and it was still charged. And being solar powered also means I probably don't have to change the battery for years to come. It's also very accurate since it's a quartz watch, and I find it very refreshing not having to adjust the time every week or so. When compared to digital watches, you can read the current time and the stopwatch time at the same time. So I find that in a lot of digital watches, they have a dedicated stopwatch view where, given the real estate, they don't have space to show the current time. It's also a very simple interaction since it only has a single function. So you don't have to press the mode button like on a G-Shock several times to access the chronograph. I also really like the date function on this watch, even though it's on a very weird position. The window is in the 4 o'clock and it also throws off the visual balance a bit. But I find myself using the date quite frequently when I'm using this watch, which is nice. When I first got this watch, I was expecting the pushers to be very meh, since it's not a mechanical chronograph. But to be honest, it's not as bad as I expected. It definitely doesn't feel like entirely mechanical. The start and stop button feels very mushy, but the bottom reset button is clicky, which gives a good feedback. So now to talk about the bad things about this watch. The first thing that stood out to me was the bracelet. The stock bracelet feels very cheap on the wrist. It reminds me of cheap entry-level watches like the Orient. It just feels very lightweight, easy to get damaged, and doesn't feel nice on the wrist. Which is why the first thing I did was to replace the stock bracelet with this leather strap, which makes it feel so much better. I usually prefer steel bracelets on my watches, but for this case, I think a leather strap feels and also kind of matches this watch better, I think. On a related note, the bracelet adjustment removal system sucks. I made a separate video about this, which I'll link in the description below. Seiko bracelet uses a pin and collar system, which is different from most mainstream watches. So when I first tried to adjust the bracelet size, I ended up actually found it very difficult to remove the pin, and also I lost the collars because I didn't know it was gonna pop out when I removed the bracelet, which was a big pain in the ass. Another thing I don't like about this watch is the 24-hour dial. I think the 24-hour dial makes sense on like a GMT, when I'm traveling, tracking a secondary time zone. But on a chronograph, I don't know when I'll ever need to use the 24-hour dial. Unless I'm living in a cave or something, I don't see a point in this. It'll be a lot more useful if this was an hour dial for tracking the stopwatch. It might be even better with just 2 dials, to be honest, because the smallest dial, for some reason they made the bottom dial even smaller than the other two. The bottom dial is actually my most used dial because I use it to track the minutes on the chronograph. But for some reason it's so small and it's very difficult to read the minutes when I'm trying to track time. Sometimes I can't really see if it's like 3 minutes or 4 minutes. I just wish it was a bit bigger. And the last thing, which is also related to the smaller dials, is the solar bit. It makes it very reflective, and especially when you're outdoors. So sometimes when I'm outside, it does lose a bit of contrast, and it makes it even harder to read the subdials. Hope you guys like my 1 year review. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.